Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. It has been 2 weeks, I think, since the last show. I took a little bit of time for myself last week by going to the Contra Krugman cruise with Stephanie Murphy, actually, another podcaster and a good friend of mine. It's a lot of fun. But now I'm back, and I'm broadcasting to you live from Los Angeles. Very fancy. I'm at my friend's, and I am joined today by Josh Shagala from Volturo. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
Hey, Tatiana, how was the cruise? I'm gagging to hear about it.
It was exciting. I had some work stressy stuff that like distracted me a little bit, but other than that, it was a really great cruise.
It was a full-on freedom
Well,
cruise.
it was a Contra Krugman cruise, so it was basically Tom Woods and Bob Murphy talking about why Paul Krugman is wrong, basically on every point. And I didn't really get to watch many of the speeches. All I kept trying to do is get to the pool, and I think I laid out for a total of 1 hour the entire week, which in my opinion is not sufficient. I'm going to try and catch up on that today.
Right. Well,
I'm sorry?
It's been crazy hectic over here. We've is there something?
No, I thought that you were going to say something, so I don't know. Continue.
No, I've been flying around like some sort of crazy man. Seriously, I've been to like 15 countries in the last 2 weeks, going to meetings left, right, and center. I think I'm really starting to see excitement in the crypto space again from the investor side, and people are really interested in what we're doing here at Volturo. And so it's very exciting, and seeing what's happening with Brexit. The entire London or English capital, the Great British Pound is tanking like nuts, and so everyone's scrambling to get their money out of that system. So we're seeing a nice uptick there, both in Bitcoin and gold, and yeah, it's an amazing time to see what's happening in the world in terms of currencies.
Very cool. Yeah, I will be in London next month. I've got quite a lot of travel coming up, so I should let folks at home know. I'm going to be in Latin American Bitcoin Conference in November 4th through the 5th, which is in Buenos Aires, which I think is going to be really great. Then I'm heading over to Amsterdam to Steam Fest, where you are ditching me and you're not even coming. So I'm going to be stranded alone in Amsterdam. If anybody wants to come and find me, try and keep me entertained, I'll be there hanging with the Steam crew. The Bitcoin, I guess that's it. Oh wait, there's a thing on November 15th in London, so I'll be taking advantage of the British pound tanking, thank God, because it's an extremely expensive city. Then I'll be visiting you in Berlin for an event on the 17th, and I'm going to be rounding it out with a trip to Warsaw. I'm supposed to speak there and sing, but I don't know if it's going to happen, but I have family and friends there. So either way, I'm always happy to go to the home country.
Just to put it in perspective on how the currencies have changed, when the Deutschmark was still here before the euro, 15 years ago, it was 27 Deutschmark for £1. And the Deutschmark was about half of what a euro is. So if you bought back then, you'd be absolutely loving life. Not quite as much as if you bought Bitcoin back in the day, but yeah, I would say definitely buy a British pound right now. I mean, it's going crazy, but I would say buy gold more, because you never know how much it's going to tank. Buy Bitcoin, buy gold, get the heck out of it.
Yeah, I buy Bitcoin. Did you not hear my song? Use Bitcoin whenever you pay. I'm living it. I'm loving it.
You're living it. You're loving it. And that song's stuck in my head like for 3 days in a row now. So well done.
That's good. That's the mark of a good song. Yeah, well, the full band version is going to be good. I have to say, we've been having a lot of trouble getting the crowdfunding campaign together, and it's been really frustrating because I really want to share everything with everyone, but with limited funds, and also when you have limited funds and you have to make decisions, it's really hard because each decision seems to have more weight. You can't really test things out, but people hopefully will be patient, and I think it's going to be worth the wait. We're really putting together some nice things around the launch.
Tell the crowd what you're talking about. What crowdfunding?
Well, so Tatiana Coin is created, and we use the first $10,000 in order to fund the actual recording of the record. But when you have a record, the most expenses come from the marketing. So I have to make a music video. I have to, I have to do all these things. I mean, doesn't sound like a lot of them, but I'm not going to list through them all. Anyway, I've got to do all that, and I need to basically execute it properly, because this crowdfunding campaign, even though we're going to be raising money in order to promote the record and the tour and everything, it's also my first real opportunity to broach this with other artists and teach them how to do it. So yeah, we're trying to raise awareness for the album, but we're also trying to raise awareness that other artists can do this as well. And so we're working on all the messaging. I'm tying the album launch in with Ross Ulbricht and his appeal, and in general that the whole drug war thing and prison reform is really important to me. So we're using the idea that an artist coin can empower artists to illustrate that artists wouldn't be able to speak out about controversial topics if they're dependent on a record label, because the record label is making them essentially a loan, and that loan has to be paid back in, tenfold. And that's not a particularly good loan. And also then they control what you're saying. So the artist coin, the way that we're using it, is also illustrating that point, that because I can raise money from my fan base and because I'm directly connected to them, I don't have to worry about censoring my message in order to appease some overlords.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic, because
Thanks.
artists are the people that really have always been the dissenting voices. And if you look throughout history, especially very closely here and talking to a lot of people in Berlin, people that lived in East Berlin during the Russian rule, it was always artists that were targeted by the Stasi police. The Stasi were a police that would make basically a network of people to tell on each other and to dob each other in for any sort of condescending views of the state, and then basically imprison people for having. It was very Orwellian, but artists.
That's really great. Thanks for cheering me up today. I really needed to hear about that, as if I'm not already paranoid enough. You're like, you can look forward to being thrown in jail. You have such an important role.
It's all right. It's all right. The wall is down now. The wall is down. So
well, I mean, is the wall down? We're planning on building our own here in the United States. So I don't know about all that. But, I think about the climate of this country, and it's really hard not to draw parallels to Nazi Germany. And I'm sure that while things were unraveling there, people weren't really aware of just how bad things would get. And that's a little bit similar to what's going on in the United States right now, because, people are, having their rights taken away. Freedom of speech is basically being eviscerated. They just arrested Amy Goodman, what is she?
Really?
Yeah, the lady from NPR. They arrested her because she was protesting at the Dakota pipeline. And luckily, the judge threw it out. But if you don't get the right judge, you can go to jail for all sorts of things that were 20 years ago unfathomable in, the land of the free, home of the brave. So I think
and it's Amy Goodman, right? So if you're not Amy Goodman, if you're just some person who hasn't really got a large fan base to push behind you, you're screwed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's scary stuff, but regardless, I think that it is, you touched on something that's really close to my heart. Artists are very important in terms of raising awareness for a lot of this stuff. And even if somebody doesn't share the same political views as I do, they should be able to express them without having to worry that they're going to be shut down. So it's an exciting time, and I think the launch is going to be great. It's just taking a little bit more time than I expected to make things go the way that I want them to, and to make sure that the message is actually heard. And it's not just something that I tell the libertarians and the Bitcoiners. To me, artist coins are a really great way to onboard other people into cryptocurrency. When we are launching, if people buy Tatiana coin, they're actually going to have a Bitcoin wallet. So it's just going to be a hop and a skip and a jump before they're in crypto. In fact, they'll already be there. So I think that that's sort of my backdoor way of getting people into cryptocurrency. But
fantastic. The Trojan horse, the artist coin. So where can they find out more, Tatiana? Because, where can they go to sign up so that they know exactly when this launch is happening?
Well, I mean, I'm online all the time, so people can go to TatianaMoroz.com and on my Twitter, Queen Tatiana, and there'll be all sorts of updates. I mean, we're doing a really big push. We're partnering with Tokenly on this, which is great. Adam and I have been working together on Tatiana Coin and different token uses for well over 2 years now, and it'll be good to see it sort of fleshed out versus the first time where it was really hard for people to support it. People should be able to use dollars, and we're making these commemorative tokens. It's going to be fun. So
awesome.
Exciting stuff.
So fantastic. Who have you got on the show today?
We have Cryptograffiti, which is another artist in this space. And that's actually going to be quite cool because I saw his stuff when I was in D10E in San Francisco a couple of months back. And you also saw it too. You were there with me. And then we've also got Darryl W, who ran for president this year. He had my vote. And it was an interesting shit show down there in the Libertarian Convention. But let's bring on Darryl first. And Darryl, he is a host and on-air personality, also a good friend. Welcome to the show, Darryl W.
Thanks for having me. Am I unmuted here?
You are unmuted. We can hear you loud and clear.
All right, good. Just wanted to make sure because I'm using a computer that I'm not necessarily familiar with, and it's kind of far away. Good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, great to have you on. So for people who aren't familiar with you, they weren't paying attention to the elections, they checked out, or maybe they're from another country. Who is Darryl W?
Well, the short answer you kind of already gave. I did seek the Libertarian Party's presidential nomination. Unfortunately, someone that is not a libertarian and admits to not being a philosophical libertarian on his website wound up getting the Libertarian Party's presidential nomination. And I've actually, I don't know if you saw the news, Tatiana, but I've actually jumped back into the race, running a limited write-in campaign.
Okay, that's pretty exciting. If I voted, then maybe I would do something with that, but I'm not going to be in the country. I mean, I could have gotten one of those to go mailing your vote in, but
absentee ballots.
You know what? Listen, if anybody, and to me,
that's what it's called.
It's nonsense. Like, voting doesn't count. They don't care what I say. They don't care what you say. Even if like somebody won by 60%, the standard candidate is going to win it anyway. You know what I mean? The standard bearer, I guess in this case, Hillary. Oh, I'm sorry, Hillary. Excuse me.
Right.
Yes. So, you know, I mean, not that I'm a Trump fan. Everybody thinks that if you don't like Hillary, you're automatically in love with Trump. I'm certainly not in love with Trump.
Oh, but, I get time. Oh, it's so frustrating. I'll go, yeah, Hillary, and they'll look at me like I'm some Trump-loving hooligan. I'm just like, what?
Right. And so is that something that's common now, Josh? I know you're in Europe right now. I thought it was just kind of an American thing of this whole binary of it's either Coke or Pepsi. You can't say RC Cola. You can't say Dr. Pepper. No, it's got to be Coke or Pepsi. It's got to be red team, blue team. It's got to be chocolate, vanilla. What do you mean you like pralines and cream? That's not chocolate or vanilla. Binary. I thought the whole binary thing was just an American thing. Is that, common throughout?
It's very much here, alive. It's amazing, and there is literally this, like, I don't like Trump at all. I think really I think he's just a freak show. But at the same time, Hillary is really nasty stuff. And whenever I bring it up, there is nobody in Europe that likes Trump. Like, maybe that it's hidden. And I think this must be another thing that's in the States, is that people are kind of scared to say that they actually believe in this other guy, which is really not another option. But
I feel like
definitely this binary thing is huge.
Oh.
Right. And if you go back and you look at the primary results, that's the system that we use in the U.S. to, determine who the nominees are of the two major parties. Trump was not getting more than like 40% of the vote until a bunch of people dropped out. And then it was really only the last few primaries where he was the only real candidate left, where he would actually wind up getting a majority of the vote. So, the majority of people that were voting in the Republican primaries did not want Donald Trump to be the nominee, but because he was getting the plurality of votes, he was getting all of the delegates or the majority of the delegates. And that's, how he wound up winning. And the New York Times actually did an analysis and found that it was only 9% of the American population that voted for either Hillary or Donald in the primaries.
It's amazing. And not only that, it's American citizens that paid $5 billion to get to that point. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, and not to mention that, the primaries, which are functions of private entities, are paid for with taxpayer money.
Yeah. It's a mess. It's a total mess. Yeah, the entire delegate system is weird. And I think Trump even brought it up, and he also, which was quite amazing, he was talking about Bernie Sanders, saying, look, both Bernie and I, we're outsiders and we're getting treated like crap. This whole system is rigged. And it was quite interesting. Finally, someone just saying it like it is. And I do think he does that at certain times. And we really saw it during Ron Paul's bid at the presidency. It was so transparently corrupt, where this whole delegate system was just totally weighed against him. It was amazing to watch.
Right. And one thing that is kind of interesting, and I don't pay a lot of attention to what the Republicans and Democrats do because, as I see it, it's like, trying to figure out the internal politics of the Crips and the Bloods. But one thing that was pointed out is some of the rules that were changed 4 years ago after the 2008 selection process. The Republicans changed some of their rules that went into effect in 2012 to, try to hurt Ron Paul even more than the rules already did. But those rules actually wound up helping Donald Trump this time because more of the states were what they call winner take all, where if you get the plurality of the vote, you would get all of the delegates from the state. And that system was created to try to, sort of stop somebody with some amount of support, but not necessarily a plurality of support. And, that's how Trump wound up actually, using the rules to his favor. And I think also he was benefited by the fact that, at the beginning there were like 17 people seeking the nomination. And when you've got, 65% of the people that are not Trump voters, they're splitting that between 16 people. So yeah, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that, you really need to get that number down from 16 opponents to 1 or 2. But by the time it got down to 1 or 2 opponents, it was too late in the process.
I'm surprised that anybody's participating in this. I don't mean to sound like a sourpuss, but after 2012, I have no faith whatsoever in this election process at all. I don't understand why anybody does.
Just because I participate in it doesn't mean that I have faith in it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I never thought that you were. I never thought you thought that you were going to win, or that any LP person would win, or that it even matters. I mean, to me, the game has been rigged for a very long time.
There are the people that they'll give lip service to. Yeah, you have the right to protest, but whenever you go out and protest, everybody always says, like, this isn't the time or the place, or, go get a job, do something productive. And it seems as though the electoral process is kind of the approved process for trying to express dissent with the American system. And, that's how I look at voting, is it's my chance to express my dissent with the system.
Yeah, I just think that it's a worthless approach. I agree with you in terms of the idea of using it to spread a message, because that is the only place where people, if they're angry about the country, it feels like their only option is to vote. And to me, that propagation of that thought process is what really bothers me about it. Not in your case, because I see what you're doing, and I do support certain aspects of various candidates and whatever, like I can get behind them. But at the end of the day, I think it's like funneling people's very righteous anger into an ineffective little puddle of blah that doesn't do anything, in order to make it so they don't put it into things that are actually useful, like cryptocurrencies, like new technologies, like alternative ways of living that are more community based and are actually reflective of the communities that participate in it. Right now, half the country. This country is a mess. I'm just glad that I'm not going to be in the States during the elections. I think it's going to be hilarious. I'm going to watch from afar and only when I feel like it. And this past week, I didn't spend too much time on Facebook, but I was glad, except that I did think that there was some really, really funny stuff coming out of the Trump campaign. I mean, he's definitely like not a presentable person in a lot of ways, but he's speaking some truth to power, and it's hilarious. And the fact that he said he was going to throw Hillary in jail, I mean, it's like the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my God. I laughed my head off when someone told me that. I went, really? That's brilliant.
The fact that he's just saying it, I think, is great. And also, what I love about this election cycle is that it's becoming so apparent to people how rigged the media is. I mean, I don't know. I must have been living under a rock, but CNN, Clinton News Network, hilarious. And all these people are seeing that everybody's getting bent out of shape about Donald Trump and what he said, locker room talk, blah, blah. But I think that there's much bigger issues at play. I'm not approving what Donald Trump has done. It's not cool. But I'm pretty sure that Hillary's done freaking million things that are way worse. Like, it's not even a comparison. I don't understand why anybody would get so mad about Donald Trump versus Hillary, who's 100% a criminal. She's talking about supporting women's rights. She's taking in huge donations from Saudi Arabia, which stones women to death for not wearing a burqa. I mean, it's bananas that anybody, like, I don't understand why people are not making these connections. But the people that are, I think that's great. They should get off of the mainstream media. They should check out a lot of the alternative media. The problem with alternative media is that there's very little standards there as well. And that's a little bit frustrating, because I'd like to see a little bit more integrity in journalism across the board. And I think that sometimes people like to write clickbaity things, and they're not really well researched, and that can hurt the credibility of the alternative media. And it's a little bit harder to tell who's right and who's wrong, and not letting that misinformation propagate from the people that are supposed to be fighting it.
Right. And one thing that I've noticed is a lot of people in the alternative media or independent media, they won't actually do their own research. They'll sort of parrot what somebody else said, or they'll write an article about an article that somebody wrote about an article about a report from someplace.
Yep.
So like Alex Jones is a really good example of this, to where he'll take like one line of something and then write an article about it and totally misconstrue the context, and then a bunch of people will then write articles about what Alex Jones reported on.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think that Alex Jones, I have a friend actually that works with him, and he says that he does a lot of research. A lot of the broadcasts from InfoWars, though, they just don't resonate with me. I like some of the ideas, but it seems like they have a lot of anti-Muslim rhetoric going on, and
anti-immigrant.
Yeah, and I don't really
and
feel
a lot
that
of
way.
There's a lot of fear mongering.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
There was I forget exactly what it was, some kind of meeting between Jay Johnson and the secretaries of state of the different states about having some kind of consistent policy about voting. And I read what was said at the meeting, and then I was like, oh, okay, like they just want to have like best practices. Let's come up with some best practices of here's how to count ballots, or how to determine who's registered, who's not, blah blah blah. And then a couple days later, there was a headline from InfoWars: FEMA to oversee election. And it was about this meeting.
They can't even oversee a flood. They're going to oversee an election. What are you talking about?
Like that was just the whole fear mongering of this, and then they're like, "Oh, best practice," and then they jump like 5 steps ahead to, there's going to be like FEMA officials overseeing the election process, and it absolutely had no connection to what was discussed at all. But when your product is fear, you're going to interpret everything to wind up being able to sell your product.
Yeah, I'd like to see some more positivity coming out of that network. I realize that things are pretty bad out there, and it actually, if there are, this is where I have a problem, right? When people talk about Muslim stuff, they always say, "Oh, there's Muslims raping women, blah, blah." But the way that they say it makes me immediately discredit it. Like, if there are Muslim people raping women and there's a cultural clash, I would like to hear about it in a way that's not uber racist and just being like, these animals, because I know lots of Muslim people who are perfectly nice and normal. So I think it kind of takes away the potentially legitimate concerns about some of those cultural clashes by just making it sound like a racist filled hate fest.
Right. And
so it's hard to tell.
I'm sure people in other countries could look at American crime rates and crime statistics and be like, "Oh, those Americans are just mass murdering drug smokers and all of this other stuff," and be like, if you're from America, automatically you're evil because people in America are in jail for rape. It's the same sort of thing.
Well, it's a really good point. When in Germany here, they had there was some huge demo of Muslims and women got raped, and it's shocking. It's really terrible thing that happened. But at the same time, I can guarantee you the same, if not more, people would have been raped in their homes by white people, by Christians, by Muslims, by people. But it was just, this is what happened, so they're all this. And Alex Jones and all that really focused on that. What's his name? The British guy.
Paul Joseph Watson.
Paul Joseph Watson. He goes on and on. And I mean, I'm a bit of a staunch atheist. I don't really believe in any of that stuff. But I think, when you start generalizing, it starts getting very, very scary. In Germany, generalized about the Jews, and not only Germany, but very many countries. It's just another step in when you take a group of people and just saying refugee now, it's really like, guys, everybody, a refugee is not something you choose to be. It's something that you're forced into. You need to flee. You need to run with your family to get away from bombs that are dropping down on your head that you have nothing to do with, and you need to try to escape. And it's not a profession.
Yeah, well, I think it's really, I feel so bad for all those poor people there. And then when I hear this terrorism rhetoric, it fills me with such a fury because, I just read an article the other day about how the U.S. bombed Yemen, over 140 people killed, mostly civilians. And how exactly is that not terrorism? And I don't remember us declaring war. And maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, to me, the perception that they're trying to portray is really inaccurate. I think that the thing that's going to save the world as we barrel toward World War III is compassion and kindness and individualism versus collectivist thought. And I mean, it's pretty scary. It is entertaining, but it's more scary. And I couldn't feel worse for all those poor refugees. I was stranded in an airport a couple of months ago, and it was awful. And then I just thought about how this is the day-to-day life for these poor people leaving these countries. They don't want to come to Europe. I mean, I think that when you have certain benefits, it kind of muddies the water of incentives for people, but I don't really think that that's the case here as much. I think that, if you look at video footage of Syria, it's a war zone. It's just demolished. It's what you see in the movies. So I'm not really sure where these people are supposed to go. Take care of their own
population. Half of the Syrian population is displaced. either internally or externally. Half. Can you imagine, if half of the people in the United States were forced to leave where they're currently living because of war? Where are they all going to go? Yeah, there's a lot of empty land in Nevada, but there's going to be people being like, you know what? I just want to get out of here completely. Let's go to Canada. Let's go to Mexico. Let's go to Guatemala, Chile, Ecuador, Uruguay, and people are going to leave. And I do find it kind of ironic in a sense that the Republican types, that they'll tell you and I, if you don't like it here, you should leave. But yet when people are fleeing countries that are being bombed, they say they shouldn't leave, they should stay and fight and try to change it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Guys, we're coming up on the half hour, and I wanted to bring up our next guest, Cryptograffiti, who's going to be talking a little bit about art and Bitcoin. Darryl, do you want to chill with us for the second half hour? Do you want to hang and just talk a little bit about art and crypto, or do you have to run?
Yeah, I can hang.
All right, cool. So before we bring him on, I just wanted to go over a few quick things. Latin American Bitcoin Conference is supporting the Tatiana show, and I'm supporting them. So please come down to Argentina. It's literally my favorite conference of the year. There's a couple that are really close, but I have to say that you can't really beat the wine and steak and exciting company in Argentina. Steamfest, the Bitcoin CPA. Kirk is my hero. He goes above and beyond to make my taxes a pleasure. Well, they're not really a pleasure. That's an exaggeration. But they're as pleasurable as they possibly could be, considering how messy my paperwork was. And also, if everybody could check out cryptocompare.com. You can compare all your cryptocurrencies. They've got a lot of really good information over there.
You can even compare gold now on Crypto Compare. They take our Voltoro feed off the API, and now you can compare solid bullion in its own price discovery system. So you're not focused on the world mark, on the actual crypto to gold market, and you can see what your cryptos are worth in another physical asset. So that's really cool.
Yes, absolutely. And then also freeross.org. Obviously, I'm a big supporter of the Ross Ulbricht appeal and getting him out of jail, but also, raising awareness for that problem that many people are facing, which is an unjust justice system. And if you go to freeross.org, on the top left-hand side, there's an Amazon button. And if you click on that, every time you shop at Amazon, you will be donating a small portion of your purchase to the fund. And I think that's pretty cool because you don't spend any money.
Don't forget the art.freeross.org,
where
there's the drawing that Ross did. Right now it's Two-Face Tango that is being revealed one block at a time.
Nice.
And you buy a block for $1, and then eventually the entire image will be available. And I believe once it's available, or once it's viewable, it will be available in print, where you can buy prints of this. Correct?
Yes, that is true. And actually, Ross did my album cover too. So I'm glad that at least while he's there, he's got a little bit of creativity to brighten his day. He's a remarkable young man. Every time I speak to him, he's pretty upbeat, considering, and he's an inspiration to me every day. So anyway, people can find out more at Free Ross. And without further ado, let's bring on our next guest, whose identity is secret. We will not see his face. We will only see a picture of a very cute dog. Cryptograffiti, welcome to the show.
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. How's it going?
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me, and apologies for the difficulties earlier.
No problem. You know what? Google Hangouts has been a pain in the butt lately. So tell us a little bit about who you are without revealing your secret identity and how you started doing what you're doing. Give us a little background.
Sure. So I'm a San Francisco-based artist, and my subject matter is the blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And I got into the space back in around the fall of 2011. I was working on a startup, and a programmer that I'd hired and contracted to do some work had asked to be paid in Bitcoin. And back then I didn't know what it was, and it sort of sent me down the rabbit hole that everyone talks about. And then simultaneously I was working on a Kickstarter project, and then part of that rabbit hole was learning about microtransactions and the benefits that Bitcoin can bring to to microtransactions. So this got me thinking, if people can use Bitcoin in ways that um, would just kind of free up the sort of friction that comes with using Kickstarter. If everyone can very easily donate, then this would be great in the art world too. So being a creative person, I got more into thinking of ideas that how can we use Bitcoin in the art space, and then it just sort of blossomed from there.
Well, it's appropriate that you're bringing up how artists can use crypto, because I don't normally talk about Tatiana coin, but Josh and I had a little chat about it earlier in the show. I have a question. What do you think about this micro tipping thing? Because everybody always talks about micro tipping, but I don't get a lot of micro tips. And until everybody just has a bunch of money lying around in Bitcoin, why would they be tipping? I don't really think that's such a great use case yet. I think it was great when Bitcoin was skyrocketing and people were just, dollar Bitcoins, y'all, like spreading them around like crazy. But I think that those days of random tipping excessive amounts is sort of out. Have you gotten a lot of tips with your work?
A lot, no, and I agree. I don't think we're there yet. But early on, I started doing some graffiti and some public work where I put up artwork, and then passersby can donate once they saw the artwork, and that was kind of one of the first forays for me into the space and trying to combine the Bitcoin with the art. And so I think we can eventually get there, and I kind of see this future where everyone is just a sort of a digital busker. And if we can get rid of that friction that I was talking about with something like Kickstarter, or it's just kind of commonplace, where if someone finds a track that you like on a DJ mix or something, and they identify it for you, you can easily just send them money. Or if people like your work in, say, a gallery setting, but maybe they're not in the market to buy a piece, but they want to support the arts anyway and send a smaller amount. I can see a lot of the benefits for it in the art space. I agree. I don't think we're there yet, but I can envision the future where it's just commonplace. And hopefully we can get there, because it has a lot of promise.
Man, I can tell you, if I saw a piece of graffiti, like a huge, I don't know, Bitcoin or something, I'd definitely look at it. And then if I saw a QR code, I'd definitely scan and send some coins to it for sure.
Well, but the chances of the problem is we don't have mass adoption yet. You know what I mean? It's great when Bitcoiners support each other. I think that's awesome. Obviously, it's great. But until we get more people, I don't know if that's going to be the thing that's bringing people together. How have you found, so you were an artist in San Francisco before you took on this name. Were you always anonymous? And if not, what do people that are in the art community in San Francisco think about what your work is like right now?
So prior to this, I was not an artist. I was working on a startup, kind of like everyone else here in San Francisco. But the pseudonymy sort of was to parallel Bitcoin itself, and some of the work I was doing was anti-central banking, and I thought, it'd probably be best if I can avoid using my name in situations like this, my identity, then it might as well stay away from it. So the people that encounter the art, it can form a nice bridge, because oftentimes, as I'm sure that you guys have experienced with Bitcoin, the non-technical crowd, when they hear about it, they just get lost immediately. And so it's a way to sort of form a bridge where if they see the work itself, and oftentimes I'm using tangible materials, such as cut up credit cards, where
I like that. That was cool. I didn't notice that at first. When we were at D10E, I saw all the art and I was like, oh, that's cool. But when I got a little bit closer, it was cut up credit cards, which I thought was just really, really cool. I liked it a lot.
Thanks.
So what sort of art do you do, and where do you do it?
It's fine art. It's tangible art. Some of it will combine digital aspects of Bitcoin itself with the art, but for the most part, it's tangible. And I'm currently working on a piece made out of cut up money straps that you would get with stacks of bills. A variety. So the media will change, but the overarching theme is Bitcoin and the blockchain. So I've done shows here locally. I'll also do conferences and bring my work to conferences. I'm probably going to be at Money 2020 here coming up.
So you're not doing like street art sort of stuff, like
street art as well. Yeah. So that was what we were referencing earlier, where I would put up some of the QR codes, and yeah, that's kind of how I got my start, and that's where the name comes from, the cryptography and graffiti combined. But in terms of the style of art, it is a range, and that is great, and that it allows me to kind of experiment with different media and try out different things, and keeps it very interesting for me. But yeah, going back to the question of what people are thinking about it, I think the bridge is really important, because when people hear that I'm doing art within the Bitcoin space, it sort of helps them let their guard down. They feel like they can talk to me more because they know I'm not so deep in the weeds technically with it necessarily, that I guess I could be more approachable. So I've had a lot of good conversations and introductions to people about Bitcoin, because it's sort of forms this bridge and acts kind of like an infographic in some ways, where a lot of people are visual, and it's a way for them to understand it in a different manner.
Do you have a problem with artists? A lot of people ask me about being an artist that's libertarian, and I'm not assuming that you are, but if you were interested in the Federal Reserve and all these other things initially, I would think that you were a little bit outside the traditional political mold. Have you engaged with people in more political discussions as a result, and how has that been received? Do you feel like it's a turnoff to people? Are people interested? How does that go?
So much of the discussion we had, or you guys had shortly to me coming on the air, I definitely side with. So prior to getting into Bitcoin, I wasn't very political, and it's been eye-opening for me. And yeah, so it sort of goes hand in hand with talking to people about the work itself. And so I'll just tell them, look, this is why I'm doing the work. This is the sort of freedom that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies can bring, and here's why that's important. And it is a natural segue into discussing politics if it's appropriate,
But do they bristle? Do they get angry? Because I would like to see more people brought in.
Sure.
I didn't like talking. I was super involved in 2012, Ron Paul, rah, rah. But as an artist, my goal has always been to bring people together. And what I loved about Bitcoin was that I could talk about the ideas in a sneaky way, but not have to capitalize the L or the A in front of my name and automatically, get rid of a whole bunch of potential sympathizers.
Right. Yeah. If it's done tactfully, you talk about the advantages and keep it in a positive light, and then maybe a two positives, one negative type of thing, then discuss what sort of negative this might correct. Then yeah, I've had some good discussions with people where they can sort of connect the dots, and then you get kind of an aha moment, much like I did.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think one thing I come from a graphic design background myself, and I've done logos for large corporations, and the thing is that these corporations have this budget to go out there and market themselves and get awareness of brand. That's something Bitcoin really hasn't had, and it's something that really is needed, and that's where artists like yourselves really step up. I love seeing stickers. People stick Bitcoin stickers, and some people say, "Oh no, it's bad because it's it's defacing property." But I actually like it because it's my eyeballs are raped every day by random brands that just enforce themselves onto my face as I go walking through the streets. I have no choice, and I think, well, what's the difference between a nice artwork that's actually promoting a not a corporation, but a protocol, a mathematical protocol that can liberate us out of financial tyranny. And I think there's nothing better than spreading the message through art and marketing in that sense of the word, I guess.
Agreed. I think we need to band together, and because of the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, there not being a particular marketing department for a company, then you know, it's tougher to get heads together and say, hey, you know, we need to have this concerted effort to kind of get the word out. I think Bitcoin Not Bombs was doing some stuff a few years ago where they would, you know, just give out bumper stickers or whatnot. But it is important. There was a group, Fork the Banks, that was out of London that tried to bring together artists to help spread the message and put out videos and music. And I'm not sure what came of them, but it is tougher because of our
Let's start a hashtag. Let's start a hashtag right now.
Yeah.
You know, every time you see a sticker or a picture, anything to do with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies or anything outside of the banking, hashtag Bitcoin art, Bitcoin street art.
Well,
Bitcoin
incidentally,
art.
guys, we are on, we're actually broadcast on many different networks, IPM Nation, Liberty.me, who's our host, Let's Talk Bitcoin, and LRN.FM. But Let's Talk Bitcoin has a magic phrase. So why don't we make that? What was your phrase, Josh? The hashtag? We don't have to.
Hashtag Bitcoin art.
Bitcoin art. Just those 2 words. You don't have to put in the hashtag when you're picking out the magical phrase. But anyway, Bitcoin art. I've actually been doing Free the Art and Art for Ross. Cryptograffiti, you should do something for that if you can. We're making art for Ross that we just send to him, but it can also be art that's linked to him in some way. You don't have to actually mail it. If you feel inspired by that idea, we'd love to have you participating. Darryl, did you make any pictures while we were at Porkfest this year? We had this big table with candy and glitter and markers and stuff, and we were all making art for us.
Porkfest this year.
Wait, oh no! Oh, because of the whole thing. What a bummer.
There was that plus my 20-year high school reunion was happening, and I was like, you know what? I got a cheap flight, so I went back down south.
Oh, you lost all that weight. You're like, look at me, guys. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm actually about the same size now as I was when I was in high school.
Oh.
Yeah, nice. Well, I would love to get involved. You know, I've done some work with BitGive and philanthropic efforts in the past. I think it's great. I didn't know that he did your cover art, Tatiana. That's very cool.
Tatiana, we lost your audio. Yeah, we have no audio from you at all. So since we have lost audio from Tatiana, I guess one of us should sort of take over the show and continue the conversation.
1, 2, testing, 1, 2.
Oh, we've got you. We've got you now.
Back. She's back and better than ever in Tatiana.
I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you're back.
I can't hear anybody. This is just fabulous. Sorry, everybody.
So we can hear Tatiana, but she can't hear us. So should we talk about Tatiana, or should we keep talking about Ross Ulbricht?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay, well, I just got this headset. I think it's going to go back, unless it's Google. I have no idea. Sorry about that, guys. Yes, Ross did my album cover. It's super cool. And, while we were talking, I started thinking I'm going to do the album release party in New York. What would be really great is if we could maybe get a lot of the other crypto artists to join me, and then we could not only have, a performance, big deal, whatever, but also have a visual display of all the different amazing artwork coming together in this community. I think that would be super cool. So we'll have to connect on that offline. And then
definitely. The party.
Right? I think that sounds really good, right? I thought it would be fun.
When is the release?
Oh God, the story of my life. I am thinking January, February at the latest. I mean, the album is ready to go, but when you put out an album, you've got to have a lot of ducks in a row, and I don't have the ducks. They're just milling about aimlessly. Sure. They need to get in line.
Well, happy to help organize. Back at the end of May, we did a show here with some of the crypto artists in San Francisco, and it went really well, and I got to meet in person several. So I think it sounds great.
Well, maybe that's a good excuse to come out to California again, too. I could do a New York edition for those people who can come to New York, and then I'll do a California edition for those who want to. Well, yeah, I guess it would be a little tour, huh?
And don't forget about your friends up in New Hampshire.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm coming up to New Hampshire later this winter for a ski trip. Stephanie Murphy and I are going to do the slopes. We're going to be swishing it up. So I was... maybe we could do some sort of a gig or something while I'm there. That'll be fun.
Yeah, keep me posted.
And once I marry Josh, then, you know, we could just bring him into the country and he can participate in these events as well. For those of you that are
I'll be
offline,
allowed in.
Josh is not my husband, but I might marry him in order to get him into the country. His girlfriend might have a problem with that, but whatever, you know.
Okay, I'll marry the girlfriend. You marry Josh.
See, look at that. We're
See?
such a, this is
And
what
suddenly
happens.
we're, suddenly we're Americans.
I volunteer as tribute.
Good. Now, Peter, we just need to. Oh, not Peter. Oh,
All right.
we need to find a husband for or a wife for cryptograffiti that we can import. We're gonna get like Melania Trump, like one of those. You know what I thought was really funny? It was Gary Johnson when he was talking about immigration, and he's like, "Yes, we need to bring in more supermodels into this country." It's really good. You know, I'm not crazy about some of the things that he's been doing in this election, but he does have some winners.
I love the
in there.
tongue thing. I love the tongue thing. It was so wacky.
That was so wrong. I was
so wrong.
Okay, so Gary Johnson's the famous gaff. He's on a regular interview, being interviewed all serious and stuff. And they're like, well, how are you going to react when you're on the stage with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? Darryl shaking his head in horror. And he says, he's like, oh, well, you know, look this.
Oh, yeah.
Because nobody will, it makes no difference what I say because it'll still be better than them. And it was just wrong. It just didn't go over well. I mean, it was
the
funny.
look on the faces of the host of that show were just priceless. Where they're like, what did we just see?
I mean, I love a good sense of humor, and Gary is a very pleasant guy to hang around in person, you know. But that just wasn't the right place for that type of an impression. Anyway, so I like this idea. I like the idea of bringing together art and cryptocurrency. What's on the horizon for cryptograffiti? When's your next show? What's happening? What's the latest news?
I'm waiting to hear if I'm going to be going down to Vegas. Gosh, this would be Sunday, to do kind of a live art piece while there's the Money 2020 show going on down there. So it'd be very last minute type of thing. I'm working on 7 pieces simultaneously, and I know there's a lot of conferences coming up. There's a possibility that I might go to the Satoshi Roundtable. There's also, I know you mentioned that Latin American Bitcoin conference is your favorite. Maybe we could talk offline about that too.
Well, it's coming up really fast, but it is
La
awesome.
BitConf.
Yeah, La BitConf. I mean, Anarchapulco would be another one that you could do, and that's also really fun. You know, for me, what I loved about the Contra Krugman cruise and what really makes me feel this affinity toward La BitConf and these other conferences is that they're in destinations where people can actually spend some quality time together. And I think that as a community, especially as I feel we're getting kind of inundated with bankers and people that don't really go along with the ideology that inspired me to be a part of Bitcoin, I think it's really great to build up the community. And also for those bankers and those outsider status, you know, maybe they can get to know us and not necessarily make a blanket judgment based on, oh, these crazy anarchists, whatever. I think it's a really good way for people to bring together ideas and to find common ground. And I think that that's really important. I know I talk crap on bankers all day long, but I actually think that there's a lot of good people in those industries that just need a little bit more of an education, and they can be a part of the revolution too. The Lovolution.
Yeah, I agree. I think meeting face to face and is very beneficial. You're not hiding behind the keyboard and saying things that could be misconstrued. It's great to just meet in person.
For Cryptograffiti, we'd love to see you down here in Berlin too. The art scene, of course, in Berlin is magnificent. It's a really, really big community. And there's so much stuff happening, always cutting edge. And you mix that with the hacker culture of Berlin and the privacy culture that you have since the downfall of the Stasi in the East. You have this really great melting pot for artists over this side. So we'd love to see you come over and spread your messages throughout Berlin City.
please keep me posted. I would love to get out there. I've been to Germany a few times, but never Berlin, and I'm a huge electronic music guy, and so I need one little excuse, and I'm out there.
Well, I'll be there on the 17th of November, and before that, there's going to be the Steam Fest in Amsterdam, and then right after Steam Fest, I'm going to go to London. So if you want to tag along for any of these things, I think that'd be really cool. And then next year, I think we've got a lot of exciting things. I thought 2016 was going to be the year of Bitcoin. And while we've made a lot of progress, I think 2017 is where we're going to see a real explosion, not only in the price, but the adoption. And I think that, again, the art community is really, really integral to that growth and for that message to be spread appropriately and not just from, government mouthpieces or something. So where can people see? Yeah. Yes. Where can people see your art? Do you have a website?
I do, cryptograffiti.com and at cryptograffiti, Twitter and Instagram. So yeah, I post there occasionally, and in terms of available work and stuff coming up, just cryptograffiti.com. So
people can check that out. And Darryl, what's on the agenda right now besides taking over the Free State with the message of liberty?
Well, that's definitely on the agenda. And what I've actually started up over the summer, I started a lobbying firm to where, I've been going up to the State House for like 3.5 years on my own dime. And what I'm doing now is seeking reimbursement for covering some of my expenses. And since I'm seeking money, that makes me a lobbyist, not a for-hire lobbyist, but a lobbyist for liberty. So I'm seeking to recoup some of my costs. People can go to libertylobby.xyz to wind up learning more about my efforts and hopefully to contribute. And right now, until the end of the month, I'm sort of incentivizing people to wind up becoming a monthly contributor. All monthly contributors will get added to the Founders Committee, and everybody that makes a one-time donation of over $50 will wind up also getting added to the Founders Committee. So it's an incentive for people to wind up contributing. And right now I'm at about 60% of the goal, which is not a lot. I'm only seeking just over $400 a month, which when it comes to lobbyists, that's incredibly cheap. So again, I'm just seeking to cover my cost of when I take a day off work to go testify for liberty. So
you're
again,
lobbying for liberty. You're trying to basically make the case for smaller and smaller government.
Yes. And
interesting.
Again, for like 3.5 years, I've been going up to the legislature, testifying at committee hearings in favor of good bills and against bad bills. And we actually had a success recently in regards to cryptocurrency, to where last year there was a horrible bill that wound up getting passed that allows the banking regulators to regulate money transmitters that deal with cryptocurrency. There was a commission that was created to study cryptocurrency regulations. The chair of the committee said that if he would have known then what he knows now, he would have recommended killing the bill. And they've actually decided that one of the state reps is going to introduce legislation to repeal the law that they passed last year.
All right.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Yes.
See, you're making progress, guys.
Yes.
Slowly but surely. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Sorry for the delayed start. We've been having some problems with Google Hangouts. They could just stop selling our secrets to the government and focus on making a good platform. That'd be great. Anyway,
they're not selling the secrets. They're just giving the secrets.
Well, they're very generous people. What can I say? Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. We will be on the show next week, and I'm excited to have chatted with you all. Cryptograffiti, I'll see you soon. We're going to do some art stuff together. And Darryl, I don't know if you ski, but I do. So let's do a cool hang in New Hampshire soon. Josh, I'll be seeing you in Berlin. Everybody,
we'll hike if we don't ski.
Indeed. I don't know if I'm going to be hiking in the winter, FYI. If everybody wants to hear more about what I'm up to, go to TatianaMrose.com. If you need any help with advertising, marketing, PR in the space, cryptomediahub.com is my company. And thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
See ya.